Thanks. Totally ruined my intro. Just forget it now. I'm not going to do it. No, hello.
Back up, rewind.
Rewind. Stop, everybody. I'm really excited for today's podcast because we have a few members of MMA and American Top Team, and we're going to talk about this amazing event that happened this Saturday, UFC 249. It's like the world was waiting and everybody was so excited because it was the first time live sports are back with everything going on. But first, I'd like to introduce everybody here. We have over here. I always like to do this. Over here, we have Trisha Cicero, MMA pro out of American Top Team, Coconut Creek, and actually fighting in Titan, Titan FC in June. That is now official. I hope it's okay that I announce that.
I guess so.
Okay. Sorry, I should have done that beforehand. But well, yeah. So that's what they're looking at with Titan next. But I'll keep it in the focus. And then we have husband Blake Bowman, MMA pro, Ultimate Fighter alum and coach. And I'm really excited to talk to the both of you. As I was texting Trisha during the UFC fights too, because I have a lot of questions because I'm just a boxer. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan, but I'm just a boxer. So I have a lot of questions for you guys. I hope you're ready. And then we have right below. Desmond Moore, MMA pro, again, out of American Top Team, fought for Titan FC, collegiate wrestler, boxer, and I give him this title of all-around strong man. Okay? And I'm explaining why I say that because I train strength and conditioning with Desmond, and it's like what this man does is just like beyond. I see him lifting weights that like 250-pound guys are lifting. You know what I mean? He's just like jumping on like 6-foot boxes like it's nothing. I'm like, how do you do that? You know, but no, it's great. I'm very fortunate to train not only with Desmond but also with Trisha. You know, we box together. She's part of my team at the PAL with Derek Santos. But so I'm happy to have you guys on. Welcome. I hope you like your intros. Worked on those.
Perfect.
Thank you. So yes,
Thank you.
So I'm going to give a little background. UFC 249, Saturday, May 9th, 700,000 pay-per-view buys. No fans in attendance. Jacksonville, Florida, am I saying that? ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena. And it's one of 3 events taking place at the arena, May 13th, May 16th. And yeah, dude, I mean, like, how excited. Everybody was just so excited. I think people that weren't MMA fans became MMA fans because they just wanted to see live sports. So, you know, I guess we can start with, I wanted to kind of touch a little bit on each fight and see what you guys thought. The first fight that actually caught my eye, I didn't watch the first fight, but the first fight that caught my eye obviously was our hometown guy, Charles Rosa and Bryce Mitchell. And I remember texting Trisha about that and being like, man, you know, like Charles is freaking tough. But the things that, you know, I didn't understand, like he was defending a lot, but he kept getting caught up in the same. It's like if you get hit with a right hand, you can't keep getting hit with a right hand. You know, how do you make that adjustment? How do you make that change? So again, coming from a boxer, and this is another reason I had Dez on too, because as a collegiate wrestler as well, give me your feedback. I mean, talk to me about that.
Who's going first?
Here's what I want to know. Let me narrow that down. I want to know 2 things. Number one, what that move was called, that like kind of like arm bar thing that he was on when he was on his back. And how did he try that twice? Because that's a move that I've never seen before in the UFC. So
Korean Zombie finished one a while back. It's a twister. Collegiate wrestlers would use that as a pin. It's referred to as a guillotine in collegiate wrestling. It is a hip lock. It's not even legal in most jiu-jitsu tournaments. It's tough. It takes a certain kind of attack pattern to really even be able to get into that. If you don't come from wrestling, especially, how do you get stuck in it twice? I don't know. I have to reserve kind of what I'm going to say about that. I used to be one of Rose's main coaches. I drove him around the southeastern part of this country. I had a lot of time invested. He was a very, very good friend. Came to our engagement party. I've known her for a long time. So my personal critiques will be kept personally. He, once again, just to like boxing, whenever you just know that in the last second of the last round, you can still land that left hook and take them out. You fall in love with it and you kind of forget your other weapons and sharpen your other tools.
Yeah.
It's kind of a situation where it felt like Rosa really abandoned his high-level jiu-jitsu for a couple of tricks that he probably had success with in the gym with certain guys. And when it came time to reach to the tool, if you ask me.
Hold on, we're getting some noise. Is that Dez? Oh, you muted him. Oh, okay, we muted him. Go ahead, sorry about that.
So, Dez, I'll turn you on, but just give me a thumbs up when you're settled, when you're not moving anymore, and I'll turn you back on.
This is important information because I'm really into this right now.
So, what is this? Is this like an advertisement? You're trying to sneak in behind your head on the mirror here, Desmond?
Right.
I should try to go looking on your back or something.
So going back to what you're saying, Blake, about there is that one move that you constantly know, and then you start getting comfortable with it, but obviously the other person starts to recognize it and knows how to do it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Where he has a couple he kept going for a leg lock that may or may not have been there. His coach was calling for a Kimura, even though he was not really in a position. It's a very low percentage. Guys sell DVD instructionals and Instagram ads for Learn This Unstoppable Kimura Trap series, and they have luck against guys that aren't familiar with the series. But once you learn it, like anything else, once you learned it, you learn how to stop it. And he was putting himself in bad positions, waiting to catch that one slick submission, much like he did in his last win. He was in a terrible position, getting the piss beat out of him, and he called a nice little armbar he's been doing for 10 years. I feel like he didn't have enough emphasis and importance on scrambling and actually wrestling and improving his position, and he was willing to concede bad positions, hoping that a trick would be there. Mm-hmm. Just like boxing, wrestling, or music, you got to stick with fundamentals to go a long way, and he kind of abandoned his fundamentals, in my opinion. Great friend. I love the guy. I would take my shirt off right now for him, but he abandoned fundamentals for a couple tricks, and you see why their tricks are not fundamentals. Yeah,
and I think that's what a lot of people, Trisha and I were talking about that, because to somebody like myself that's not familiar with wrestling, although, my cousins wrestled, I watched it, I started to learn about jiu-jitsu and ground games a little bit more, because before I was like, I need an encyclopedia to know what the hell's going on. I don't understand any of this, but now understanding that aspect of it, I mean, he was in some pretty, compromising positions, and the fact that he got out of those positions just speaks to Charles's resilience, heart, and toughness, but lacking in the technique.
It's not even that he's lacking in the technique. It's that he was putting himself in a position where he couldn't utilize good technique.
Okay.
I personally have held Rosa in chokes that I've put high-level guys to sleep with for 3 minutes, and he just never goes out. I've never seen him go out. I've seen the best grapplers in the world choke Charles Rosa, and he's never gone to sleep. So I knew he wasn't going to tap. But once again, you get overly comfortable in the fact you're not going to go sleep, and now you've lost half a round. And you can't get it back.
What really impressed me too was just that, his neck injury. I mean, he had a very severe neck injury, and he made his first comeback was his last fight, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. He won, and then he had
to have the neck surgery touched up. He was actually cut twice.
That's why now I'm like, dude, you're in these positions with this neck injury, and you're still like, no. I mean, he completely was like, I'm going out on my shield, whatever I got to do. So I mean, I was totally like, it was a great fight. I mean, to start the night off for me, because that was the fight that I really wanted to start off the night with. Right. I was so excited. Dez, is there anything that you want to say about Charles? Did you train with him? Did you wrestle with Charles?
I've moved around with him, not often, but I've been able to feel out certain positions with him before. And obviously, he's a very technically sound fighter, and his grappling is. He's not a newcomer to the grappling. Okay, so he's very tricky in different situations, and when you speak at something like this, I'd like to speak on like a broader level, just for all combat sports or all martial arts. So if we're thinking wrestling, which is where I can talk from, is just like any other sport that I have to learn a system, and I start somewhere, and then to improve, I move forward. So he knows the system at which he fights at. He knows grappling. And again, I think it comes back to when you're in there, you don't have time to think, and you do what you do in the spur of the moment, and you want to hope that you've trained enough things to have that muscle memory. So if you continue to do something, that means that it's probably training it a certain way and hoping that it would happen. You know what I mean? But across the board as far as a grappler. He knows what he's doing, and I'm sure he's going to look back and make his own assessments of the fight and like, I should have went here, I should have did that. But at the end of the day, the fight's in the past now, and you just got to learn from it. So again, it's about going back to the fundamentals, whether that be traditionally, you know what I mean, and knowing, when to hold the position, when to advance in the in passing, in this, just like any sport, like, wrestling, if I keep trying a move that's, I got somebody with once, or it might be a one-trick pony type of move, you know what I mean, and I'm not focusing on my position or those basic fundamental aspects of wrestling, then I put myself in a situation for the match to get away from me. So,
Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to that with boxing. The jab is always go back to the jab. When all else fails, you go to the jab. If you're not going to jab your way in, you're going to walk yourself in, you're going to get caught. You're going to get held up. You're going to get something if you're not focusing on your distance and keeping your range and stuff like that. But that was a great fight. So, and Bryce Mitchell wasn't, he wasn't just a guy who's going to come in and lay down for him, obviously. You know what I mean? So they were speaking very high level about him as well.
He's a very, very high level guy.
I was unfamiliar with his background.
Tough guy from Arkansas. He actually had probably the most gruesome injury out of competition that you'll ever hear.
Really?
Yeah. He was doing house repairs on a ladder, and he put the power drill and pinched it between his legs, and the drill went off and caught his genitals and tore his scrotum open.
Oh my God! They didn't say that on the air.
Terrible! Oh. Wow.
He actually said to Charles, "You may take my arm off, but I ripped my own nutsack off. I'm not worried about my arm." That was part of the pre-fight trash talk, and it's 100% true. But he was.
But only fighters. I swear, only fighters.
Oh, wow.
Would not put it on the ladder. Yeah, right. Exactly. Put it on the ladder.
Oh my gosh! So I mean, but his background now, he was amazing. I mean, his wrestling and his ground game was phenomenal. I thought the both of them, for my opinion, if I'm going to critique striking, terrible. Like, hands down, I thought the both of them were terrible.
You had like 45 seconds to look at in the whole fight.
Oh my gosh. And that's the only thing I can critique on, because that's what I know. But
Bryce
I'm like,
very, very high level grappler. Very high level grappler.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's why. And the two of them seem more comfortable on the ground than standing up. So it was, that was very interesting.
And to kind of reference what Dez was talking about, Dez, I don't know, have you ever had Charles on your neck before?
No, we've drilled certain positions when it comes to that, like our MMA jiu-jitsu stuff, but not in like live goes and things like that.
His guillotine, Dars, anaconda, necktie, his whole front headlock series is as good as you're going to find in the training room, and that's why he's willing to concede the takedown to get the neck. And at the highest level, you can't give up position, because now the other guy's got too much steam. Mitchell had the momentum, and you never can get it back.
Yeah.
And one judge gave all 3 rounds 10-8, and I don't think that's completely unfair.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still learning how to score. That's why I told Trisha, by the way, Blake, I'm inviting myself to watch fights at your place. You're right. No, because I want to understand. And I was like trying
to take off your shoes at the door.
Huh?
Take off your shoes at the door.
Of course. I'll even bring pie. Okay, I'll even bake.
Okay, come on without a knife.
That's what I'm in. It's just so gratifying when I get to speak to people about this and understanding it, because it's only going to make me understand, be able to speak about this more. And being training around you guys, I've developed such a huge amount of respect. I mean, I was always an MMA fan, but having trained around you and just seeing the different things that you guys have to go through in your training, because again, we're talking about Charles, some of these two guys as wrestlers, but they're also doing jiu-jitsu, they're doing, striking, they're doing a bunch of other arts. Along and conditioning, along with all of these, everything else that is put together. So, like what Dez said, you go in there and you're just like, I got to do what I got to do, and whatever comes out with the game plan, obviously in the forefront. But there's just so many things that can happen, and that's why I think MMA is so exciting. Which leads to the next fight, which I was talking to Trisha about, because I was a little bit disappointed. I'm a fan of Michelle Waterson. When I fought Naheem Dennison, she was in her corner, Naheem's corner, because they all train with Holly. And I fought Naheem Dennison in 2014 or 15, and it was Jody Escobar and Michelle Waterson were in her corner. And it's great. Naheem Dennison, very good fighter, but MMA fighter. She was she had some boxing experience. I think she was like 5-2 or something like that, but not really not to fight against somebody that's a boxer, you know, it wasn't going to happen, you know, but I just respected the team, just the way that they came together and the way that they were very professional. It was great to work with because not everybody's like that, obviously boxing and MMA. But going back to that fight, I know Carla Esparza, you know, again, another wrestler. I was very surprised that they kept such a distance. Now, when I was talking to Trisha, my questioning to this was, okay, I'm thinking Carla Esparza is not coming in because is she respecting Michelle Waterson's kicks? Because I know that she's karate background. I wasn't too impressed with the striking, but I didn't feel like I saw enough to really make an assessment on their striking. It wasn't until the last round when Carla actually started throwing her hands and coming in that I was like, wow, you're actually doing something. So my opinion of that fight, it was very basic. I had it a draw. I mean, from what I knew to score, you know, I didn't really see it anything unanimous, you know, or anything like that. But I definitely was just a little bit, I thought it'd be a lot better than that. So.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, Michelle, she's a kicker. And just from my experience, you know, karate is my background as well. And that's, you know, it's a fine line between using your kicks to keep your distance, but also being careful that, you know, a wrestler like Desmond over here doesn't catch my kicks. Yeah. So, you know, that plays in the distance on both ends. You know, they don't want to eat your kicks. You don't want to get your kicks caught. So, and also obviously Michelle respects Carla's wrestling. So she also didn't want to, you know, bridge that distance too much. One of the things the commentator said that I noticed right away as well was that Carla was not combining. She was compartmentalizing too much.
I think you told me that because then that makes sense to me. Yeah,
strikes, and then when she was ready for a takedown, you knew it because she was diving for a takedown.
She was clearly flipping the switch.
Michelle could see it from a mile away, and credit to Michelle on her wrestling defense because there were some really good shots that Carla, you know, threw in there that Michelle dug an underhook and threw her off of her and turned her away from the cage. So props to Michelle and her takedown defense for sure. But, you know, if Carla had been putting that together, using her strikes to set up her takedowns, I think she would have had much better success to get the fight where she wanted.
So we have a comment here. I was surprised with Michelle's performance. I felt the match played out like a chess match, but was expecting a little more from Michelle given her warrior mentality. But you know what? But to what you said, Trisha, it totally makes sense. Like, I don't know the moves of the wrestling, but that makes sense. I mean, if somebody's kicking, they're grabbing your leg, you're going down. Like, right. I don't know how to get out of that. You know what I mean? Especially how fast, Carla Esparza is. You know, these are little girls. They're small, but they're fast. So it was really interesting to see that whole situation play out. What do you think is next for both these girls? I know they're always, and they're pretty active. Both of them, you know, and what's next for, I mean, you know, everybody's chasing that 115 crown. I know Joanna is wanting to get that back and they're kind of all vying for it. What do you expect to see in that? Because that was the most popular division for a while, you know, when Ronda left.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're both kind of in tough positions. I don't think either of them are very close to a title shot. You know, Michelle, obviously she's coming off of the loss to Joanna. And now this loss, obviously it was a close, you know, split decision. But I think everybody kind of has a similar opinion that it could have been a draw, could have gone to either. It wasn't really a super impressive performance for either of them, even though certain aspects of it were done very well. For Carla, obviously she's a former champion, but I feel like she's had a little tumultuous win-lose streak where some of her wins were also split decision that maybe could have gone the other way. Maybe she had some losses that could have been wins. So I don't feel like she really has a case going for her right now for a title shot in the near future, unless she strings together a couple more good wins after that, which, you know, of course could happen. But with Michelle, I'm not sure. You know, I think UFC likes her a lot. I think she's definitely shown her worth as a fighter, you know, in the UFC. So I think she's going to be fine. She'll get another fight, but she definitely has to build herself up again.
So what about matchups? I mean, who's out there? I mean, they've pretty much seen a lot of each other. You know, How does that work? Because I know sometimes, you know, they're still building the females in the UFC, you know, especially that division. But that division and the 135 have been the most because they were like the first two. You know, the 125s and 145s and the girls are moving. But what do you think about matchups? Like, who would you like to see a rematch or like what do you think?
It's tough to say. If you look at the top 10 of the strawweight division, the strawweights right now, it's some of the top 5. I mean, Nina Ansaroff is on there. I don't remember what exactly she's ranked, but obviously she's pregnant right now.
Yeah.
Congratulations to them. Yeah. But that's somebody that's ranked above both of them that obviously isn't in contention. I know Tatiana Suarez, she's up there. I don't know what's going on with her and her possibility of a title shot. I know she was injured. Felice, Herrig coming off of a ACL injury. She might be getting back into the mix soon. So there's been a lot of like inactive straw weights, or a lot of them that maybe just came off of a loss or won but are injured. So I'm really not sure. I'm not, it's not my weight class. I do obviously watch and, obviously I have a lot of teammates in that weight class. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure where all of them are at right now. Obviously, Angela Hill.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
She's fighting Claudia Gadella. And I forget who Claudia was supposed to fight. Claudia was supposed to fight somebody that got injured. And Angela, of course, being Angela Hill, she's fighting for like the 12th time this year already. And it's May. So
is she fighting on one of the cards?
She's fighting Saturday.
This weekend.
She's fighting Saturday.
So yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, okay, that's right.
So that'll be very interesting as well. And Angela is another one that she's like dug herself out from the trenches. It's extremely impressive and inspiring because she did not do well coming off of the show. Obviously, she didn't have the same experience as the other girls in MMA. She only had one MMA fight. But then after that, UFC career didn't go great. They put her back in Invicta. She won the Invicta belt. Went back to UFC, had a little up and down, would win 1, lose 2, win 2, lose 1. But now she's kind of putting a streak together. And I think because she's so willing and ready to step up and fight whoever, she's like the female cowboy right now. So definitely working in her favor.
Yeah, I watched her. She was on The Ultimate Fighter too.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed watching that. I mean, not just because of the females, but I just really enjoyed watching the whole dynamic with all the girls and just seeing them now develop in the UFC and hearing her story as well. It was awesome. And Carla won that, right? She won the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
Didn't she?
Yeah.
And people thought that she was going to go farther than she did.
Until she came across Joanna.
And Joanna was like, where did she come from? You know what I mean?
Joanna, yeah.
I mean, it's very, it's interesting. And so, okay.
Tough. He's tough. Huh? Joanna is tough.
Oh yeah, especially
she's a real deal.
Yeah. Dez, is there anything that you want to say on that with the girls? I know you're training with all the girls at ATT.
I mean,
he beats us up.
I train with a lot of the straw weights and the flyweights. When it comes to their wrestling or their striking or if they need a look. But just commenting on, I guess the hesitation that people saw, in that matchup. I think, just like you guys said, it's a combination of the wrestler not wanting to get kicked and the striker not wanting to get taken down.
Yeah.
Now when you're thinking as a wrestler that this person's going to kick, at the end of the day, you're just going to bite down and move forward, catch one of those kicks and get it to the ground. But that also comes with timing and seeing things as they're coming, and then also not taking the damage. So it's one thing that if I'm getting, leg kicked or different types of kicks and they're hurting me, that's going to make me hesitate to shoot. So, as a wrestler, if I see a leg, I'm going to grab that leg and you're going down. But then if you're getting hurt by something, it's going to make you slow that idea down a little bit. So we have to, we would have to ask her what was going on there, if she felt, the kicks, or if she was just timid because of the possibility of the kicks, and that plays a huge role.
And Michelle's longer than her. Is Michelle taller than her? I thought she's longer. I mean, let's look at
maybe a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that. But it's funny because I feel like, I love the best MMA fights to me are the most well-rounded athletes. And I just felt like in these two fights that we're talking about, I don't know if it was matchups, maybe, but I felt like there was a little bit missing. They were very much kickers and very much wrestlers, or very much wrestlers and very much, wrestlers. There wasn't really the balance of the striking and all that that went along with it.
Yeah, and one last thing I'll say is, I think psychologically it also might have been a factor for Michelle coming off of that loss to Joanna. I think that was, a really hard loss for her.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've all been there. All of us that have fought have had a tough loss. And the next fight, you're maybe a little bit apprehensive. You don't want to risk too much and lose, but, you know, you have to do enough to win. And it's finding that balance. So I didn't see that like old aggression that you would see in Michelle's
I agree. I felt the same way.
Yeah.
But I felt the same way from a little bit with Carla too. I felt the two of them, I've seen them way more aggressive in other fights. Again, I know, listen, styles make fights, and especially in what you guys do, there's so many different styles that it's very different. But I think that's why they make such great fights in MMA. So going to the next one, I know we had, and we could touch on these. You guys talk as much as you want. I'm just kind of like the Nico Price and the Vicente Luque. Good fight. I thought it was a great fight back and forth with the stand-up. I was impressed with the stand-up because you know me, I'm just like, okay, let's see what they got here. So I was impressed with that. And Nico's face after that fight, I mean, the eye was swollen shut. I mean, it was, and clearly, obviously, you guys with the smaller gloves, you're going to see a lot more damage to the face with that than you are in boxing. So, you know, I don't know their backgrounds. Talk a little bit about that.
I mean, I used to train with Nico. He's a good bit, and he's a handful. He's more than a handful. He's also he's a wild man who, as you see, his face is exploding and he's laughing and lapping his tongue around. He
loves it. He loves what he does.
Better or for worse, you know, that's what he's into. And when it turns into a firefight, he enjoys it like some people enjoy a movie. And what he lacks with clean technique, he makes up for with enthusiasm. I'm a huge fan of the guy. Yeah. Vicente Luque is just really one of the better put together strikers on the card, in my opinion. They kept saying that neither guy's a defensive fighter. I think that Vicente Luque's defense is very good. His counter strike is aggressive, but he's also got good defense. You can do both. I think he's a very impressive striker. I know that his father is some kind of long time kickboxing instructor, and then he's also a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So he does come from a kickboxing family lineage and a jiu-jitsu background. He is a well-rounded fighter. Nico is, like a Charles Rosa, a super hyper-aggressive grappler with whatever he can get. He's got to be the only guy in UFC history with 2 knockouts off his back. You know,
and you got to think counter-punching is defense. And they were both good counter punchers. They were both landing counter strikes, and they were timing it really well. It was a great fight.
But you know what? I was texting Trisha on, like, I guess when I'm looking at defense, you know what I mean?
Straight line, yeah. Too much straight line.
And I know it's hard for me to kind of like, I'm like, all right. And like we talk about, you know, Trish, when we spar, you know, I'm like, listen, I can't tell you to move like a boxer in there because you got to worry about all these other things happening. But like, I just would have liked to have seen, I just think listen, and again, we'll talk about him a little bit later on, but Tony Ferguson, Tony's got head movement. Like I boxed with Tony in California, and you know, there's a lot of that, but the countering too, but he uses his defense to throw his punches. And I saw that a bit from Vicente Luque, maybe not as clear as I've seen it before from other strikers. But that was an exciting fight. And then we went to the heavyweights with Fabricio Verdum and Oleksiy Olenek. That was a split decision.
That's Dez's uncle, Oleksiy Olenek. Did you know that?
Not right.
Now, when you look at a guy, you know, like Oleksiy, it's like, man, he's got so much mileage, and you're like, how does he keep doing it?
Dude.
They do. I mean, I think I was telling one of the wrestlers the other day, like, you know, how many fights that Oleksiy actually has, and it's ridiculous, you know. But he goes to the gym and he's happy and he trains, man. He just puts his work in, and it's just in his mind that I'm gonna just keep doing this. I'm gonna get better. I already, you know, everybody out there knows what I'm really good at, so I'm gonna just keep correcting the small things, whether it be positionally, whether it be with his body, whether it be, you know, adding a little bit of striking, you know what I mean?
It was a good day.
To get better because he's so good at what he does already.
You know, it's funny as a veteran fighter myself, and no disrespect to them at all, but I was just thinking, I was like, man, I can tell these guys are veterans because they totally have dad bod. But yet they're in there and they're just like going, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. They have this experience. and they have this knowledge and understanding that their bodies have been through so much. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Their game is
Right.
That was really. I mean, I was thinking that as I was watching it, I was like, but I know Fabrizio Verdum from Venice. You know, he's got his gym down in Venice when I was in California. You know, and I trained there a couple times boxing, just working on striking with some of the girls down there. So it was really a really great experience. But just knowing how long they've been in the game and knowing all that and seeing those two fight each other. But were you happy with the decision, the split decision?
I thought that Alexi for sure won. Yeah, I thought he for sure won. There were parts where you could just tell that Verdum wasn't comfortable in there. And Alexi's been working a lot with Pauly, by the way, with Pauly gloves to really focus on his striking. I read a stat that he's like the third person in UFC history to have 5 wins in their 40s.
Oh wow!
In the UFC, along with Randy Couture and I forget the I don't want to shortchange anybody. But, yeah, because Alexi's got like 80 fights that are documented professionally, and I can guarantee you that there's Russian fights that are not documented. The guy has hundreds of
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
For sure. And he is insanely strong. He has picked me up by my head and carried me around the mat.
Oh, my God.
By my neck. With his choke, he's walking around the mat with an Ezekiel choke while my feet are kicking me. Insanely strong, insanely tough. And dad bod, because he is a dad, he brings his kid. I mean, Dez, you probably train your kid, right? I know Quinn does, and you guys do. And so he has his kid in the gym every day with him, in the sauna with him, and it's crazy. So now he's living the dad bod life to the fullest. He's the best.
He's winning it, and he's making. That's going to be the new thing. I mean, to be able to move like that and do what he's done. I mean, no, absolutely.
I saw him at Dr. Gelb's yesterday. Nothing broken. They were doing X-rays on him. Nothing broken. No injuries. So he's good to go.
Nice.
So
awesome.
Hard fight against one of the greatest all-time heavyweights, right? For Fabrizio Verdum.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention, like you're commentating too for XF. Was it XFN?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I wanted to mention that. I forgot to mention that in my notes. Thanks, Matt. You're fired. No, but that's another. I mean, you have the knowledge, and not just the experience that you have, the knowledge that you have, and just having seen what you've seen. You know, it's it's great. It's great to have you on. I really appreciate the two of you for coming on. Of course, Dez too. And then we're going to so the Pettis and Cowboy.
That was something to watch, right?
Yeah. Holy cow.
So, man, Cowboy, I've always been a fan of Cowboy. Like I've been a fan of his. I just love his personality. I love how he comes out. Or just like, how can you not?
People can't, you know?
Yeah, he really is. And man, he fights like hell every fight. Win, lose, or draw. It's like you forget because the fight was that good.
Right.
Well, the other thing I love too is the way he handles defeat. It's on to the next. It's the fights in the past. I mean, obviously it was a very, devastating loss to, how he lost to Connor. Very criticized and, just get back on the horse. Like that's what I respect about him as a fighter, that he takes his loss and shrugs his shoulder and okay, who's next? What's the next fight?
When he wins, it's just like, you're just so happy and elated for him. You know what I mean? Like you just like the guy.
For sure. And this has to still feel like a win for him, right? Considering the last time that he fought Pettis, he got smoked with a body shot early.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's inside information or not, but he does have certain issues. Like I think he had diverticulitis or something, or ulcerative colitis. He has, and he's been finished with body shots a few times. Dos Anjos has done it once or twice. Pettis did it. He's been finished with body shots. So in this situation, and he also got hurt low with Connor as well, I believe, or from a body kick. I could be incorrect on that. I expected it to happen, but in this situation, he took a lot of shots that he, and maybe that's the weight class. Maybe he's better suited for a heavier weight class. He can take a little more damage, but compared to his last fight against Pettis, first of all, compared to any fight that you're going to see, this one deserves to be appreciated. This was a very fun, very, very friendly fight between two guys that are as entertaining of strikers to watch as you're going to see in MMA. So they delivered what they should have, and I love the fact that when they read the decision, Pettis shrugged and said, "I'll take it." Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to sum that fight up. Whoever wins, who cares? I'll take it.
Yeah. And that's what I love about. I mean, I love that. Especially about MMA, it's very different from boxing, and I'm not knocking boxing, but it's very different. Like you guys have the team atmospheres too. That's something that I've noticed. I'm training at American Top Team and training in tons of different boxing gyms around the world, I always notice that there's the camaraderie feel of the teams when I come, regardless of what goes on inside the gym. Because listen, we all have that, but you guys work with each other. You know what I mean? So that mutual respect is like automatic. And so when you fight another MMA fighter, you guys know, it's like it's automatic. I mean, it's there in boxing too, but it's different. You guys are holding mitts for each other. You guys are. I can't say I've never felt it, but I felt it. I feel it different training with MMA fighters, even if I'm strength and conditioning, like with Dez. You know what I mean? It's a different, like checking in on me after the training session. I've had boxing teammates do that before, but the consistency that I have with MMA fighters, of that caring and that camaraderie, like I just love it. I'm like, damn, how come I didn't do mixed martial arts? Seriously, no, I ain't doing it. It's done.
Come on the dark side. Des will wrestle with you.
There you go. Right there.
I want to get a gi. I told Phil he owes me one. So
a gi?
A gi. Yeah, I want to get a gi.
I can't wrestle with that on, but no, but I mean, commenting on that fight. I mean, obviously you got two phenomenal strikers, and then some grappling aces too. Pettis is no joke off of his back. And for Cerrone to get some takedowns, and I believe it was either earlier this week or maybe last week, but a recent interview, he was just like, the wrong guy showed up to the last fight. You know what I mean? As far as when you're thinking Donald Cerrone and when you're thinking Cowboy, you got to go somewhere to step in that cage, and he's got to go to Cowboy. That's his lifestyle. That's his mentality. And he said the wrong guy showed up for that last fight. So I think, for him to come out and put on that performance, he's okay with what happened. Obviously, you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want a loss, but you can be more content with that than the last outing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I of course, obviously, in boxing, I mean, my mother's watching a movie and she's in the background screaming. Oh, on a podcast. They were on her phone watching. They're trying to be quiet.
It's the other movie.
I put in the bedroom now. I think I have somebody caged in my apartment screaming. Anyway, back to MMA. Okay, so then we got to the main card. We got the heavyweights. We got Greg Hardy and Yogan Nakashima. I got opinions, but I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think of that? I mean, I'm just not. I don't like Greg Hardy, but I just don't see excitement. I don't know if it's because I'm spoiled with like other fighters and excitement. I don't know. I don't see, and I know I'm not saying like I just can't connect with that when he fights. I just can't connect.
I mean, he's only been fighting for 2 years.
Okay.
So I mean, most of us had at least a few years.
But why put him? I mean, putting him before Cowboy and Pettis on the main card, dude. Like that's where I feel like main card. Okay, here we go. I'm like, after that, I got to go to that, and I think that's. I mean, does that make sense as a fan?
You're not wrong. You're not.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Who can explain that? Is Hardy a bigger draw? Because
casual
of his background.
He's a Brock Lesnar, he's a CM Punk. He's going to bring in eyes that maybe don't know MMA fighters, but they know that he's an NFL Pro Bowler.
Okay.
He's competing at the highest level you can compete in football. He also has had fights where he put on very, very bad performances a few minutes in because his conditioning failed him, and sooner or later you have to gain confidence in that again. And until you do, it's always in the back of your mind that I was too tired to defend myself that one time. That's in the back of your mind. And
I feel like fighters are tough critics. As a fighting fan, as a fan of fighting and a fighter, I'm a hard critic on watching. When I'm going to say I like somebody, I'm a fan of somebody. But they were joking. I remember, didn't he have an asthma? They gave him an asthma pump in one of the fights. I know they were I remember that fight. And then another fight, he got disqualified for something else.
Yep.
When he hit the guy when he was down. I don't know what.
He needed a
down fighter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what's kind of rubbed me the wrong way a couple times. And as a fighter myself, I'm just like, dude, like I know. I mean, I don't do MMA, but I know what it's like to get in there and maintain your composure. But again, like you said, he doesn't have that much experience as a fighter, and putting him on these main cards is maybe putting a lot of expectation.
For sure.
I don't know if it's the expectation. I think he expects high things of himself. You have to when you're a professional athlete, and especially at the caliber of professional athlete he was. I think he shows up to the gym just like everybody else trying to get better. And I think he works. And I mean, if you actually speak to the guy, like, yeah, you can listen to, you know, what the naysayers say and the haters say, but when you just have a conversation with, he's just an overall great person, you know what I mean? And he wants to prove that he belongs here. So each time he goes out, he's going to try and add something that he didn't have the last fight. And for this one, if he's going to take something, I mean, he did an interview, I think his post-fight interview, he was like, 2 words, Steve Bruno, you know what I mean? He said his, you know, cardio, is, you know, they're running the pad, the combos and whatever, but he felt better. So for him, again, that's progress. And that's all you're looking for, is to make progress each fight. He's on these cards. He's, you know, this, the main event, because, you know, you've got haters that want to see him lose. It's like a Floyd Mayweather effect. You know, people want to watch him lose. So that's going to draw more eyes to it. He does have a following. That's going to draw more eyes to it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That makes sense. Because I've learned, I mean, especially, I know, Blake, you can relate to this, but when you commentate, because I've commentated myself, I can differentiate, I can separate the emotion. I'm looking at the facts. And I think for me, when I'm looking at that as a spectator, a fan, and even just an analyst of some degree, I'm like, all right, like I said, a cowboy pedest to that. I'm kind of like, you know, so, but thank you.
It was the crescendo. Yeah, for sure. Right. Yeah. The rise of the card. And one critique was everybody wants to critique everything that everybody does. One thing I would say is that he had like a 6-inch height and reach advantage. And it's like, I really like to see him focus on getting that jab out there, because he's a big guy. Like 6'5", you know, I mean, I've been around him. I'm like 6'2", and he's a big guy. He's for sure, he's every bit of 6'5", maybe 6'6".
He's big. Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, they bill him at 6'5", he might be more. And I'd really like to see him, because as you well know, no one believes their jab is as long as it really is. You know that. Nobody believes that. And there were a lot of times where he was jabbing almost, and he really could have got in there and really stuck that jab on a guy who was clearly hurt. The guy's foot was broken. The guy couldn't move. He took away his leg kicks, his good weapon. And Greg's leg kicks look very good, which is all Steve Bruno, by the way. But if he just really believed in that jab, what's scared to get a leg kick? When the leg kick stopped, you have to stick that jab out there. But I've always said in coaching and fighting, I can't control how good the other guy is. I can't control how good his jiu-jitsu is. I can't control how good, but I can control how in shape I am. And until Greg comes in there saying, I can whoop this dude's ass for 25 minutes and never take my foot off the gas, he is going to pull back a little bit in the later rounds, because he has kind of gassed out in the past. And that doesn't go away until you know you can do it.
I mean, fighting with asthma, geez, I give them a lot of credit. You know, I mean, that's not easy either. You know,
still can't use the inhaler between rounds. That's still not allowed.
That's not legal. Is that legal?
No, absolutely not. Because you don't know what's in the thing.
But they asked the commissioner. He said, "Go ahead." So to be fair, it doesn't fall on the form. Yeah.
But
he did talk to the commission. You know what though? Before we go on, he said something interesting in his post-fight interview. He said that he was listening to the commentator. Does that ring a bell, Trisha? He was listening to the commentator, and he was following the advice of Rogan or whoever, you know?
Yeah, I actually heard Cormier. I don't remember what fight it was, if it was the co-main or main event, or maybe even early in the card, but he started to realize, Cormier started to, at one point, say, you know, we should be a little more quiet. I think they can hear us. I think they're hearing us coaching, guys. Maybe we should move our tables to the back next time. They can hear us.
Well, they were making comments that they can hear the breathing, you know, that they can hear the fighters breathing. If they can hear their breathing, they can certainly hear what they're saying. So and, you know, you can hear the other corner clearly also.
Did Blake you when you were fighting?
You know, I might have heard a little bit of coaching through the commentating.
Well, that's hard. That's hard not to. That's your wife. I mean, you know.
But I mean, even for other other teammates or people he wants to look out for. You know, it might be like what Desmond wants to do here is Desmond would want to really step up his left leg and start to build back up.
Man, I wish I had that.
In the corner, you're like, oh, okay.
And it's you can see the camera come in on me, and I'm like leaning over the table. What Desmond wants to do here.
Oh my God, that's great. But that's funny about even them there, because you can hear everything. Yeah. You know, I mean, even the punches, the breathing. It was really interesting, you know.
It was scary to hear some of those punches. You could hear Ngannou's punches echoing. It was
terrifying. Yeah, well, that's the next. Well, actually, before that, I have a funny story. So a friend of mine who actually just called me, my friend Meryl. She had called me. I didn't answer her call. Then I get a message in my inbox on Facebook from Calvin Cater. Is that his last name? How do you say it? His dad. So his dad messaged me saying like, "Hey, we have a mutual friend. My son's fighting the UFC this weekend." I was like, "Oh, what's his name?" And he's telling me, and I'm like, "Oh, I'll follow him on Instagram." I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, Meryl told me all about you. We were just talking back and forth, and it was just so random that I get to see this guy fight." And man, I was so impressed. Like
that elbow was terrifying.
Dude, I was just like, man, and the elbow, I love it. I wish I could throw elbows in boxing. I mean, you can, but you have to do them really well. But not that kind of an elbow. That was gnarly. That was like, woo.
Well timed, well distanced, well placed. Like, I mean, don't get much better. Maybe Paul Daly when he knocked out what's his name from Minnesota? I can't think of his name. That's got to be the second best elbow now to Calvin. That's the best elbow knockout I've ever seen from a clean shot. It was beautiful.
And to take out Jeremy Stevens,
Sam Morgan,
who everybody knows, Jeremy Stevens is an absolute killer.
The two of them, yeah.
Jeremy Stevens is
terrifying.
I mean, he's a tall order for anybody. So to see how Calvin stepped up, it was extremely impressive. And on top of that, not for nothing, but Jeremy Stevens missed weight by 5 pounds. And we all know as fighters here, it's a factor. And to see him get the win over somebody who missed weight, that's a feel-good victory right there. Yeah.
Do you disagree or do you agree? What was the thumbs down?
Pros make weight. Once again, sure, maybe your training partners weren't there. Your jiu-jitsu coach wasn't there. There's a road. You can go run on it. You can do your road work. You got a sauna. You got a treadmill. You got a bike. You got a bike.
You're talking to a girl who fought a girl that outweighed her by 40 pounds.
Right, but what was she supposed to weigh in at? He was supposed to weigh in at 145.
Yeah.
He weighed in over 150.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Yeah.
He was almost the weight class above limit. He was closer to 155 than he was 145. Unacceptable, unexcusable. You can control your weight.
Question: So I know in boxing you're not allowed to fight if you're above 8 pounds. Is there a rule in MMA?
Some state athletic commissions have it, but it's going to be state specific. Other than that, it's going to be a bigger percentage of your purse the more you miss. Okay.
Yeah, because we do that too. But I mean, you guys cut a lot, way different than boxers. You guys cut a lot, and I mean, I don't know. It's always been for me watching MMA fighters cut weight, and especially the wrestlers. I was like, wow, But it's totally different because you're using different energy systems than boxers. So I know that makes a difference too. But what was the other? There was something else I liked about. Oh, that's the fight that I was watching, and I'm like, okay, not the. I mean, I know I commented about the defense and the striking with Nico and the other guy, but the defense was not there. They were all here. I mean, they were landing, but there was no defense. I didn't see any counters. I didn't see it like I saw it before. I saw more of that going forward with the striking. Yeah. So
I mean the way those guys, are throwing those bombs like that, it's that type of outcome is almost inevitable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with that type of win, and then you have the issues with the not making weight, it's almost more deserving. You feel a lot better, because if you lose to a guy who didn't make weight, you're like, well, was it because of the weight? You know what I mean? You start to question that stuff, and not really look at the loss itself as you as a fighter. You're like, well, he was bigger. You know what I mean? So when you can go out there and get a win when a guy has, I'm not going to say an unclear advantage, but when a guy's just bigger, it sucks. It weighs on you. It's terrible. So when you can go out there and do what you got to do, then it's awesome. It's an awesome feeling.
Yeah, more satisfying win. So now going to the performance of the night, the heavyweights, Francis Ngannou, and I'm not even going to try this, but I know it's Rosenstruck, or is it Rosenstruck?
Rosenstruck.
Yeah.
Dude, that was okay. So
by the hour.
When can you miss it?
I'm just going to use 22nd brutal KO for those of you that didn't see that. The overhand right landed by Ngannou. Okay, I felt that Rosenstruck threw a left hook and he kind of clipped him. But then it got wild. So for me, it was just kind of like it was very wild. It was a wild. I mean, again, with the MMA gloves, it wasn't for me. I understand it was like, whoa, but I don't know, from a striking standpoint, again, I'm looking at the striking and I'm like, but that was just wild. That was just the guy coming out like a lunatic, throwing a haymaker, like, and then just following it up, but using his whole body into it, not taking anything away from him. I don't know. You know what I mean? I just kind of was like,
I think that's the difference in approach when you look at some of these KO power MMA guys versus a solid heavyweight boxer. You know what I mean? There's more technique involved in punching than people realize. But when you're just heavy-handed, all you have to do is touch somebody once, and,
right. Oh, and that.
he knows that's what he can do. So it doesn't really matter as long as he's not getting hit to get KO'd. If he touches you, you're going to sleep.
Because, but you know, that's why, because Rosenstruck, he caught him. If you watch the slow motion too, he caught him with a clip left hook, but it was like nothing because the guy probably had nothing on. It's like he was like going with it.
Yeah.
And then he came back. So kudos to him for even trying to throw a left hook. It's not like he just took it like he just got, you know, he definitely got overwhelmed, you know, but that overhand right was something fierce.
By a big guy.
Yeah.
Big guy.
Yeah.
Who was the last guy that Ngannou knocked out and he split the guy's lip? It was almost in half. It looked like he had
that was Rosenstruck. Rosenstruck knocked out Alistair and split his lip.
Ngannou also knocked out Alistair and split his lip.
Was it both of them?
Alistair got knocked out with the uppercut.
I'm gonna get his lips checked. I mean,
I got to find the picture. We looked at that picture, Maureen, on one of the podcasts. I showed it to you.
And it was a video game uppercut, and it was brutal. Yeah, Joe Rogan said he brings you into a gunfight, but he has a bazooka, which is a very, very fair representation because his chin was up so high he was counting lights while he was punching. You're not wrong. He was way up here and begging for a counter punch. But what are you going to? You're not going to stand your ground against that guy. You can't.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like now that you're saying, like, yeah, he was. That's why it looked like he was just like. But I mean, like you said, it works. You know, it works. Even though he got clipped to the left, but it didn't even phase him because he was already.
Deontay Wilder said, "You got to be perfect for 12 rounds. I got to be perfect for one punch," and that applies very, very clearly to Ngannou as well. And unfortunately, he was perfect for 3 extra punches while the guy was unconscious. That the referee couldn't get there fast enough. But and those echoing on a guy who's clearly out was kind of hard to look at, really, and hard to listen to. Because Biggie Boy he didn't know what was up. He was gone. He wasn't there. He was removed from the mortal coil. And 2 or 3 more clean left hands landed. And you could hear them echoing off the empty seat.
Like you said before, that was like, I was like, dude, if you're going to hear anything crack, like that was it.
Horrifying.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then
that's how he's made his bread and butter, right? It's that just like I said, if Rosa gets your neck, he can lose 3 rounds, but win 1 second and you're asleep. And Ngannou can lose every minute of every round and then win one exchange, and you're asking what the hell happened in the locker room afterwards, so you don't know.
Well, that's the same thing with Deontay. You know what I mean?
Right.
Deontay losing the fight, wins that overhand right. That's it. You know, I mean, except for you know when Fury gets back up from the dead.
Wilder knocked me out with a right hand that he landed on Tyson Fury. It still knocked me out.
Oh my god! So all right, so now we're going to the bantamweights, 135. So okay, so explain it to me now. I don't know if my facts are wrong. So Henry Cejudo's won the 125 and 135, correct?
Yes.
So this was for the 135 against Dominic Cruz.
He was defending his 135.
Okay. So people, I heard they were saying it was an early stoppage. I love Henry Cejudo's hands. I think he's got great striking. I know that. See, to me, he's a well-rounded fighter because he's a wrestler, correct? But yet his striking is very impressive, you know, and attacking Cruz's legs early on, and you know the game plan I felt was exactly. I mean, that was a big difference, and I learned a lot about.
That was new for him. Those leg kicks like that with that kind of slow form and that dedication was new. He's not come out and attack, but Dominic Cruz has made his living and bought houses off footwork. So brilliant idea, chopping the legs away because Cruz uses this very unique footwork to hide his punches and hide his takedowns. Cejudo proved very early that I'm going to out-scramble you. You're not going to put me on my back. So then chopping the legs away, he wasn't worried about Cruz's takedown entry, which led to the finish for sure. That's something that Dominic uses all the time, that dip to hide the right hand and then the exit on the angle. kind of like Ali used to dip and then slide out on the angle behind the guy. And he dipped into a knee. That could have been a better time if it was on a movie shoot and it was the fourth take.
Yeah, it was a perfect. The game plan was perfect.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I was looking into that. I mean, you gotta imagine as a well-rounded person. I mean, he is a very developing, well-rounded striker, and he's shown each fight that he can add something new. And I think you got to look at Cruz's injuries. You gotta he's got knee issues. You got to imagine that if I can just keep digging at those knees, he's going to slow down again. I got to imagine as a coach or a competitor, that's got to be somewhere in the back of your mind. Like, I'm just going to keep beating this leg up. One, he's not going to move with his footwork, but two, his knees can't handle that.
Wow.
Not like that. He was throwing some smoke. I've never seen Henry throw leg kicks like that.
And Joe Rogan commented, which I think is, it was like he was kicking through to the other leg. That even a few times that Dominic did lift up his leg to get out of the way, his kick was going so hard, it was going through to the other leg. He wasn't just tapping that leg. He was trying to take it out, and he would catch the other one if Cruz even moved his foot out of the way to defend. So definitely that was a huge key to victory for sure.
But now
and then he retired.
Yeah, to announce retirement after that. And I respect, listen, I have utmost respect for fighters, and I respect what he said, but I liked at the end when he said, it depends on the money. You know what I mean? Like, could they offer you something, and he's like, well, and Dana knows the dollar. So obviously there's something going on there.
He had said that before already, that if they weren't willing to renegotiate his contract, then he was going to hang it up and go try out for the Olympic team again, because they're pushing the Olympics back to 2021. So if he didn't get the renegotiation that he wanted, he's looking to go to the Olympics, which I don't know. But you can't fault the guy. Dez, correct me on this if I'm wrong, but the year before he won the Olympics, he didn't even qualify for the World Championships, right? Or did he lose that first round at the World Cup?
I believe so. I would have to look into it myself. Again, I mean, he definitely had way more accolades on the the international scene as a senior level athlete than he did high school and college level. So when he made that run, it was something great. And again, this could be tactics. I mean, he could really want to get that itch back to compete on the mat, but I think he's sending a message. And if he stays gone, he stays gone. He did say he's happy with where he's at. He's got an Olympic gold medal. He's got 2 weight class UFC championships.
Defended both of them.
Yes, and he defended both of them. So really, after you do that, it does come down to money. So maybe this is just a holdout, and he doesn't want to be the guy to hold up either division. So let him come out. They're going to vacate those titles, let someone else fight for him, and then maybe him coming back.
It's cool. That was, and then come back and do something, make it more exciting too. And you'll get paid what he. Yeah.
I hope he does come back. I'm one of I don't like his cringiness any more than anyone, but I'm not a hater. I like his fighting, and that's really all that counts. If he wants to go around and say, I'm Triple C, I'm the best combat athlete ever, and let him do it. I don't care. I hope he comes back. Really,
I don't get I don't care. To me, it's like I said before about the athlete itself, and to see the progression and to see him. I mean, he's just such a solid, well-rounded athlete, and to see every fight do something new that is exciting. It shows it's just commendable, and it's exciting to see what's he going to bring next.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like he's still on his way up. He's still improving.
Yeah.
He gets better. Yeah, he gets better at everything he's good at, and he adds one new tool that you don't know that you have to prepare for.
Yeah.
We've always got one more thing, and then if push comes to shove, you're not going to put me on my back.
Yeah.
Right.
I've had conversations. I spoke to Jimmy Smith about this, and I spoke to other people in MMA about what would you say would be the best to have, and everybody would say wrestling. To have wrestling as your foundation, it's a better place to start, and then to build around that. That's what they had said to me. They thought, because I guess it's more intricate, or jujitsu, from that angle. I don't know. What do you guys feel about that?
Let's throw that one to Dez first. He's the accomplished wrestler here.
I'm sure I could be biased for this, but it's all I've known. I have some boxing experience, so I mean, I've always liked boxing, so I feel like the two of those are great to have together. But I mean, when you're looking at it from a statistical point, it has shown that, with a wrestling foundation, you can build into something more complete than maybe with a different foundation. I think when you get a wrestler that is going to not try and change who he is, but add tools, then you're a very complete fighter. When you get a wrestler that wants to become a knockout artist, I think you go down the wrong path. When you get a wrestler that abandons it just to become like a guard play jiu-jitsu guy, you go down the wrong path. But if you just add to your wrestling all of those things and become very versatile, I think then you're seeing those complete animals in the cage.
Yeah. The old adage is that with wrestling, you get to decide where we're fighting. If you're the superior wrestler, you decide if we're boxing on our feet or if we're grappling on the ground because you're the superior wrestler. That was the old adage. But there's also something to be said. I'm not as accomplished as Dez, but I do also come from wrestling first and foremost. There's something to be said about those red flag day practices where you're in there and you're going live and it's an hour straight and you don't have the option to quit. And if you have to puke, then you puke while you're getting taken down.
Wait, stop. What does that mean? What do you mean you're going live? What do you mean you're puking?
You're wrestling for 50 minutes. We walk into the gym.
Like sparring.
Yeah.
Like sparring. Live and wrestling is like just doing boxing rounds, sparring after sparring after sparring. That's the thing, just nonstop live rounds.
And when I was training with Matt Hughes, he would always say, nobody gets hurt going 95%. You get hurt going 50%. And today we're going live. And he would hang a red flag on the wall and say, you guys know what this means, right? It means you don't go out in the water. The water's choppy. If you're here for a leisurely swim, get out of the gym. We're going live today, 60 minutes, nonstop. The only break you get is to change partners. That's it. You're not getting water. It's not a minute. It's get the guy next to you. Ready? Put your back on the wall. You grab a lock double, go. And we start a 60-minute timer. And you're crying, but you can't stop. And that's where the wrestlers push through because all they got to do is just score. You can always just score one more time. And as long as you have that from wrestling, then you can score one more time. You can do what you have to do. If you're getting your ass beat, you can take the guy down. You can score one more time and figure it out.
Wow. I never knew. Like, that's why I know some of our viewers are boxing fans. Some of them are trying to – I think a lot of what I was excited about the show because – everybody watched the UFC. I know they did, even boxing fans, because they were just like, dude, like we need to watch, live combat sport, and being that this was it, that's a big reason I want to do the show to understand, to learn a little bit more and to become a fan too of MMA because of understanding these variables, that you guys are talking about. But that's interesting because I didn't know. I never knew like that, and that's part of the training, that you guys do in wrestling.
A lot of that is just those red flag practices. Those are those mental moments where people are going to say, that's why I'll choose the wrestling foundation. Not necessarily, I mean, obviously from the skill set itself, but those are mental practices where, again, you don't have the option to quit. So if you quit on yourself, you quit on your team, you're off the team. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So you just have to keep digging deep because you can't quit on your team and you can't quit on yourself, especially if you're a valuable part in the lineup, you know what I mean, as far as the wrestling team goes. But those are mental battles, and it's one of the things that brings wrestling teams so close together because the season's so long. You got to grind together. It's not, I'll fight, now I'm off. It's just, sometimes for some people it's nonstop. It's year round because I'll go right in my international style. So it's a mental battle in that aspect that I can't quit on myself. I can't quit on my team. So when we do those type of situations, those type of practices, it's not really even about getting the workout. It's not about doing things right. It's about really trying to break the person across from you and then hoping that they don't break. You know what I mean? Because that's going to make him a better teammate, which is going to make you a better teammate.
No, that's great. I love the philosophy, and I love that.
If I lose, it's because I failed. But if I won, it's because my team and my coach prepared me for anything. right? And that was the lesson that you learned that makes you a man when you're a kid in wrestling. If I lose, it's because I made a mistake. If I win, it's because we all prepared properly. And it's like you're saying, you just can't quit. And in jiu-jitsu, you can go in 8 minutes in the guard. There's no guard in wrestling. It's score. Jiu-jitsu is perfectly okay and naturally encouraged to slow it down, to take time, to catch your breath, to control. Wrestling is score.
Be more aggressive, yeah.
If you take him down, you have to tilt him. Once you expose him, you have to stick him. If he gets away, you got to put him back down again. If you're on the bottom, you have to reverse. You can't hang out there. You have to.
So am I correct in saying you see more explosiveness in wrestling than you do in jiu-jitsu? There's more explosivity of the turning around or the use of the hip.
Depends on who's doing the jiu-jitsu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
It's more of the mindset. I think the difference is more of the mindset. Like he was just saying, jiu-jitsu, you can kind of sit back and relax mentally because you
can set your traps.
You might know, okay, he's going to do this, so I'm just going to wait. I'm going to relax. And going back to Rosa, like we said, he can rely from years of maybe tapping guys out in the gym or in his previous fights that if I'm in this bad position, all I have to do is just wait. I'm going to wait it out because I know I'm going to catch this arm bar. And it's like that, that sense of confidence that you have from the experience that you had where these guys came from is a little opposite where, like they're saying, you have to create the pressure. You have to always be winning and scoring the points. You don't score points if you're just on your back relaxing, right? The opposite of that's how you get pinned. That's how you lose. So that's why I think a lot of people have that opinion. And I agree. I'm not a wrestler. I come from karate. But I would also say that wrestling is, probably the most important base to have as a pro MMA fighter. I wish I had learned wrestling earlier. I went from karate to jiu-jitsu and then wrestling. So, I'm always constantly playing catch up on my wrestling. And that's the hardest part for me. And, I can't compare to what these guys have gone through, hours and hours and hours of the gym wrestling like that. No amount of whatever I try to sprinkle in throughout the week is going to equate to somebody who has those years of experience. Yeah. Hopefully on the female side, there really aren't that many females that, have also had years of experience wrestling, besides like a Carla Esparza or Tatiana Suarez or some of these girls. It's more of a rarity, I think. But I think that's why people say that that's, the best base to have because of all these points they just made that really make you a fighter who knows how to win when the cards are down. And when you're losing the round, they know I can score that point. Where a jiu-jitsu fighter or a karate guy might think, okay, well, I'm just going to hang out and wait and maybe throw up this Hail Mary. Maybe I get it. Maybe I don't. Wrestlers are more of that. I'm going to create. I'm going to get it. I don't have it, but I'm going to get it.
No, there's not as much. There's no.
Go ahead, Zed. Go ahead, Des.
There's no conceding, and obviously there are offensive jiu-jitsu practitioners. They're guys that are just go and get their, those smash and pass guys. Those are guys that are very offensive in their jiu-jitsu game, but there's no conceding any positions in wrestling. You go to your back, you lose, which is basically like you getting submitted, which is basically like you quitting. You know what I mean? There's always a fight because you don't want to give up the points. So you're just constantly in search of your next points, which is me as a coach is what I'm always telling my wrestlers, like if you're always looking to score points from every situation, you're going to give yourself an opportunity to win that match. And if you take that into an MMA fight with a wrestling mindset, if I'm looking to score points in every situation, now we're talking total MMA, if I'm looking to enter with my hands, to set up with my punches and then level change and get to the shot, if that's something I want to do, if I'm looking to, set up my hands and then get to the kicks and that's something I want to do, if I'm constantly looking to score points, I give myself an opportunity to win. Where if I concede any of those situations where some guys may give up the takedown to advance in their jiu-jitsu game, where a wrestler might not, he's so stingy in his mind where you're not going to take me down. I'm going to sprawl, spin behind, take your back, then end the fight. There's no conceding any positions. You can't beat me.
I got to say, I can relate to that with boxing because I feel like that when I'm fighting, when I come forward, if I put myself on the ropes, it's because I'm luring you into something. I'm not going to put myself on the ropes to take a break because if I put myself on the ropes to take a break, I'm in trouble, and I'm showing you that I'm in trouble. I'm basically quitting. Or if I clinch, I've never clinched in boxing. I've never clinched my opponent because I was tired. That's another that's another quitting thing too. Because if you're clinching, like, oh, it's a technique. It's not, because if that fighter, like I knew when I won my NABF title fight, I pulled my arm down and I hit her right in the solar plex because I knew that she clinched when she was tired, and I prepared for that. So it's always, but I like what you said. I'm really fascinated with wrestling. I'll have to like pick your brains more, at a later time about this, but I'd like to learn some of that just for myself, because I feel like I fight that way in boxing, where I'm always looking to score. I'm always looking for the, and I'm always kind of like luring the person in or setting up the trap. But I'm setting up the trap to score and to dominate and to always be the aggressor. Even when I'm boxing you, but I'm still making you fight my fight. I'm luring you into it. Yeah. So I get that.
And then also with the scoring, I was going to touch on earlier in wrestling, they will give your opponent a point if you're stalling.
Oh,
so
wow.
if you're being passive and you ignore a warning and you don't work, then they may give your opponent a point. And then also, if you're scoring points, you're dictating the match. If you sit back and see what he's going to do, you're letting him implement his game plan. And it's only 2-minute rounds in high school, right, per period. So you don't have time to let him figure it out. You have to attack. And touching on the team aspect that Dez had mentioned earlier, your team is rewarded on team points based on how you win. If you get a pin, you get 6. If you run up a 15-point lead, you get 5. If you win by 8 or more, your team gets 4 points. And if you win by 7 or less, your team only gets 3 points. So your team as an overall team gets a championship based on how many points you score in your individual match. So the harder you work in your match,
the team
wins a big trophy based on how hard you get a medal. Your team gets a big trophy based on how hard you work when you're out there. So that's
good pressure though.
You're always incentivized to score at all times. Yeah,
that's great. No, I love that.
Would you think that it's fair to say that, like, on a collegiate level, wrestling is the most physically demanding sport that there is? And that the training, you're in better shape than, like, let's say the football player or the basketball player. It's the most physically demanding. And when you can start wrestling in middle school, in some places elementary school. Mm-hmm. And so kids, when they're in middle school or high school, they know how to cut weight, and they have to make weight. Yeah. So they're already used to a lot of aspects of fighting before they, or start their amateur MMA careers. And definitely they're professionals, which they can't, start, at least in Florida, until they're 18, right?
Yeah.
So I would think just because of the training and the shape that it gets you in it makes it the best base.
The mental part of it, I can tell obviously from that. It's the fortitude and the, if you find your fighter, because if you're not a fighter, you're not going to last in that sport, with wrestling.
And that's why there's so many, wrestlers that will comment on the idea to not do MMA. Not that they can't, you know what I mean? But they've put so much just grueling hard work and mental sacrifice into it. For some of them, 4 or 5 years in college, 4 years in high school, and then some of them start in kindergarten, you know what I mean? So 5, 6 years old, and they've been doing it up to then. And then some of them just have that dream to go on and continue their Olympic, quest, But it's not because they can't, because I think you could take a lot of wrestlers, put them in an MMA environment, and coach them to be fantastic. It's just mentally they're drained, and physically they're like, I put my body through so much.
Mike Brown's a wrestler, right? Is that his background too? Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, going on. Speaking of wrestling, we'll talk about the main event, which I was excited about, obviously for a number of reasons. I've known Tony when Tony won the Ultimate Fighter. I was training with him out in California. I got to really know him and really, and he's that person that you see, the way he fights, the way he moves, the way he's so agile, and the way he has fun in there. That's Tony. I've watched Tony transform into El Kukui, because he wasn't always El Kukui, but to see that, the way that he just grew into that, and the persona and everything that led to him, he worked very hard to get there. And I have a huge amount of respect for him. So this was an exciting fight for me to watch. I thought that he looked like himself in the first round and a half. And then I started seeing him slow down the mid-second round, and I know that Dana felt, the weight cut, I know he mentioned that. And I know that some of you may not know, the listeners, that, Tony had a fight and he made the weight. He didn't have to make the weight, but he decided to follow through with making the weight. So he went to the 155. He does carry a lot of weight when he normally walks around. And then he's been out with numerous injuries. And then the Khabib fight being moved over and over again. And then him having other issues that he had before, outside of the cage. That taking a big, risk by making the weight last month. I was trying to figure that out. Like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like, and I was talking to Melissa, my diet coach, about that. And I'm like, what? I would advise him to do that. And I mean, I said something. I said, even if he was going to do it just for show, dude, lie. Just put yourself on the scale. Like, if it's that big a deal,
put your thumb on the table. Yeah,
dude. Like, just don't do. I mean, it's like, I just think that like that's, when you don't even have the fight there. I just didn't. It really bothered me that he did that. Even before this fight. I was like, okay, because we've made weight, so we know what it takes. And you guys obviously cutting a bit more. I mean, I don't cut as much, but shoot, I wouldn't do it even if I'm only cutting 8 pounds. I ain't gonna do it because I don't need to. So understanding that logic, I tried to contact Rashad Holloway, because Rashad's a very good friend of mine, and that's his striking coach. Tony used to train at Knuckleheads, and then he moved to Orange County with his wife after they got married, and they started training out there. But and I was really curious, and I'm still going to try to get in touch with them, because I want to understand that, why that was done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, to prove a point, I guess, just to show that he could do it, that, I don't know. I mean, again, I agree with you. I don't cut weight unless the, sign on the dotted line, and the fight's official. But I guess he just really wanted to prove a point. And obviously the Khabib thing was postponed so many times. He wanted to show he was ready for it either way, I guess. But I think it was probably a detriment, if I had to guess.
Yeah. The body does not like cutting weight. It does,
and twice in 3 weeks. I mean,
it does not like it. It was a mental warfare thing, 100%. I think that maybe he questioned the validity of Khabib not being able to make the trip. I don't have any reason to believe that Khabib wouldn't be wherever they're going to pay him to be to fight. Me personally, but I think that maybe he was saying you could have been here if you wanted to, so I'm still going to make the weight. This was the 5th time. I've had tickets twice that said Nurmagomedov versus Ferguson, and both of them were worthless. So I told her it's not going to happen when they announced it the 5th time. I knew it wasn't going to happen. Some things are just cursed. We just don't get certain things, and I feel like this is one of them. I mean, the guy's a maniac. You know that. He trains hard. I think it was mental warfare.
So much energy. And it's funny because I don't know if Matt posted the picture of him and I when I won the WBC title. He was at the party and he just super chilled. But when he trained, it was like, forget it. I remember watching him punch the bag and I was like, dude, like, I like his hands, him and Chris Beal. I don't know if you knew Chris Beal. Chris Beal was on The Ultimate Fighter too. He was from California with Ronda Rousey's team. And him and Chris were training. And I was like, dude, you guys have decent hands for MMA fighters. I was kind of impressed. But Tony specifically, and it came out, and I want to highlight Justin Gaethje too, because huge amount of respect for him as well. I mean, phenomenal fighter. But Tony's uppercut is my favorite punch that he's ever thrown. Like, I'm telling you, from back then, from 2011, he throws that right uppercut so beautifully from an angle that you can't get away from that. And it's a defensive punch. So Tony's very good at countering, and he's always been really good at that. And I watched him when he worked with Haas, Joseph Janik, my old coach, that right uppercut. And when he caught Gaethje with that, because Gaethje was throwing one too, but he was just he's so long and lanky, but he knows how to use that hip and get that power into that uppercut. Look at me all trying to do it. Was so beautiful. And I was like, man, but then the elbows and the tricks and the dance moves, they're like that. He's just so exciting to watch. But going back to what Dana said about, Gaethje's punches, like, dude, that guy's like, he hits like a Mack truck, and Tony's taking all this, but I felt like Tony was a man in like the first round.
Yeah, Gaethje is and always has been. I've been a big fan and admirer of his for a long time. I mean, his recent losses are to Poirier and Alvarez, who are both champions, who are both, legendary, battle-hardened warriors, both of them. But he has always been a 9 to 5, punch the time clock, bring the lunch pail, blue collar kind of. this ain't going to be fun for either one of us kind of fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just what he does. It's no one goes, oh, is he throwing leg kicks? Like he chews your legs up, he beats you up, block his punches, and he beats your forearms up.
Yeah.
And he works the body. He's constantly just
always moving forward. He never takes a step back.
Yes, nonstop. His cardio, his endurance, and I think that was overwhelming for Tony as well, because then when
Tony's the one putting pressure normally. Tony's not good at backing up.
And then add in the weight cut, because damn well, you know what I mean? A weight cut like that, and then doing it again, what that puts on the strain on the body, and just, you feel that in the fight. When you don't make weight correctly, you're going to feel it in the fight, and I think that definitely led to that. And then you just saw Tony kind of, I don't necessarily feel like when Dana said Tony was slow, I don't feel like he was slow in the first round and the half of the second. I think he slowed down as Gaethje kept pressuring and coming there and answering. Even if he wasn't landing, he was answering.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think that was starting to wear a little bit too on the game plan of Tony.
Yeah, I think that's mentally and physically draining when you have to now play defense when you're a great counter striker, but a great pressure striker as well. And now you're hitting somebody and he's walking you down and just doesn't care. And now he's connecting too. So now you're just like freak and on top of the weight cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're getting hit. You're trying to hit him, but he's hitting you. But you're like, man, maybe I didn't make the weight the right way, or whatever it may be. There's a lot going on there where the fatigue starts to sell in. There's some adrenaline dump going on. It's a lot.
Oh yeah.
And those leg kicks are brutal. His leg kicks are brutal.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah.
So bad.
And I think I had heard an interview from Gaethje when the fight was first booked, where they asked him, like, have you been training? Like, because this obviously wasn't Tony's been training for Khabib for a long time. And and Gaethje, this was somewhat of a short notice fight, obviously. And I think somebody asked him, like, what's going on? Have you been training? Are you in fight shape for 5 rounds? And I think he kind of hesitated and paused and, thought about it and said, I got 18 minutes. And so I guess he had said that before, when the fight was first booked. So I'm guessing that maybe this took Tony by surprise, how good his cardio was, how he kept picking up the pace. Tony's the one that's been in camp this whole time, not Justin Gaethje. So that might have been a little bit of a mental, what the hell? I'm supposed to be in better shape than this guy. So I think that might have been part of it. And yeah, there was just so many times towards that second half of the fight where Justin was just throwing 3 or 4 shots unanswered by Tony.
Yeah, that's what I started seeing. Yeah, that's where I started getting a little bit more concerned. And I was like, all right, what's going on? Like, this is not good.
3 or 4 shots. Tony would swing back one that wouldn't hit him, and then Justin would go right back in again. So,
but just Tony's technique and knowing him as the kind of striker that he is, and watched him develop, and then even seeing him from the first, I watched him just start breaking down. And his technique and his form and everything started to go. And I believe it was, I believe the weight cut took a toll, but I also think it was Gaethje's punches that were landing and the pressure and I'm still in it. You're not going to pull me down. I'm going to come out of here. And so, and I know Matt mentioned that he had, they said that he fractured his orbital, or that is his eye socket.
Yeah.
And I know and the thing about Tony, and I know Matt sent me a video and he's like, your friend's okay. And I'm like,
dancing in the hospital.
But dude,
dancing in the hospital, yeah.
Tony wasn't okay. Tony will make you think he's okay.
Right.
He's always been like that.
Yeah.
Like his injuries, when he broke his elbow, and we were all together. Like when we were, we were all training with him. We all had the team there, and we all knew, but it's like he'll never let you know he's not okay. That's the kind. He's a warrior like that, and he's always been like that. But that was a rough loss to see for him. But what do you guys think is next? Because I know Gaethje threw down the interim belt and was like, I want the real one, and
savage
drama, and he wants Khabib, and and rightfully so. But what goes on from here?
Well,
Yeah,
I think Justin, first of all, Justin was, he paced himself in a way that I haven't seen him ever pace himself in a fight. And I'm glad that he did it. And he said something about it afterwards also. And I think he added a couple of years to his career, because I don't know how long he could have gone And I've been watching him since the World Series of Fighting down here in like 2014 or whatever. He always fought that same way. Just come forward. He didn't care how many shots he ate. And, but he was always a great striker. And he has a wrestling background too, but he doesn't use it. You know?
Now, people always comment about his style of fighting and whether or not it's the smartest thing to continue to fight that way. So whether he changed it up a little bit and whether that was due to limited preparation or whether his camp is finally starting to see it, or him himself as a fighter is like, I've got to make these changes. You know what I mean? But it's good to see now on top of the, interim title comment, you know what I mean? Obviously you'll feel that way because it's not you didn't beat the guy who has it, but at the same time, he's going to take that belt home and he's going to hang it up. You know what I mean? But, they're going to wait and try and get that fight scheduled. He wants the real thing, and he'll look at that belt and know that he's got to put the training in to get what he really wants, which is unification, unify that and really be called the champ of the division.
So how does that fight go down? How does Khabib Gaethje? What does that look like?
I think it's a big question mark because I don't know. I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, have we really seen Justin Gaethje's wrestling a whole lot in his fights? Because of the way he fights, we don't get to see that side of him. Obviously, we know Khabib fight, but we also have seen Khabib throw his wrestling out the window and just want to be a striker, just want to brawl. So is it going to go in that direction and we're just going to see the two of them stand toe to toe? Or are we going to see Khabib get the takedown? Are we going to see Justin Gaethje's wrestling defense or offensively? Because I think that's a big question mark, is who's going to dictate where it goes and, what happens when somebody puts the pedal in one direction or the other.
Well, it was interesting because somebody said to one of the journalists asked Dana about, he goes, so is the Tony Ferguson Khabib fight dead? And he's like, well, yeah, like he lost the belt. But that's interesting because I think so many people wanted to see that fight. You know what I mean? Like, even if there's no title on the line, it's not the next person that's in line. That's still a fight people want to see. And I think people may still.
Yeah, but you can't hold up the division,
Exactly. I mean, I would want to see it no matter what, because
and that's what Gaethje said after he won, is that he said, listen, I'm not here for the politics. He said, I wanted to earn my shot and I earned it.
Yeah.
And that's it. You can't take that away from him. Obviously,
is to have him fight Khabib. Yeah.
Well, he's got a great work ethic. I was listening to him. His father was a copper miner.
Wow.
And he just instilled, and he worked in the copper mines, and then he said, I'm going to give this up. I want to go wrestle and go to college or whatever. And then everyone else said, okay, you're going to be back in the copper mines. And he's like, no, I'm not, and then he started on his career. So he's just a hard worker, and it shows. And he's very, very talented. But to see him fight Khabib, I still want to see Ferguson fight Khabib. Because, and I think Dana should just invent another belt for it.
Boxing.
Like the BMF2 belt or something like that,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Just a Khabib Ferguson belt. That's all.
Yeah, that's all gotta be.
Yeah.
Everybody's been waiting their entire life for.
Yeah, Gaethje is, whether or not he shows it in his fights, there's no doubt in my mind that he hasn't stopped training wrestling. It's there. You don't lose that. You always put that in your training, environment, because that's what makes you mentally that tough. So when we're talking about what that fight could look like, I think depends on where Khabib wants to take it. Not to say you want someone to dictate a fight, but if he comes out to wrestle right away, it could be more interesting than if he comes out to strike, wait, and then wrestle. Because if he comes out to strike first, it could be interesting if Gaethje fades and then he starts to pour that wrestling pressure on. If he comes out to wrestle first, I think you can prepare for that. And you know what I mean, and give him some sprawls on him, give him heavy hips, play around in the front headlock, and where Khabib down, where we haven't seen him worn down, but we've seen him throw hands and not be effective as far as power. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to get into a firefight with Justin Gaethje.
No.
But he wants to be really clean on his in and out. And then, you know, when he feels the right timing is there to take his shot. Because, you know, but if you sit there and play with fire at some point, Gaethje's going to put your lights out.
Yeah.
That'll be
absolutely.
I'm looking forward to that fight too. To see that. But I want to wrap it up because I want to let you guys go. Is there anything else you want to say about that fight?
I would like to point out one thing.
Yeah.
Tony Ferguson never lost a fight during Henry Cejudo's entire MMA career.
Really?
Yeah. His last
that's absolutely true.
His last loss was a year before Henry Cejudo started fighting, and his loss followed Henry's retirement immediately.
I know they said, didn't you post the picture of me and you said the last time, like he hasn't lost a fight since he took a picture with me or something like that?
Yeah, it's been like 9 years since he lost the fight.
That was that was 2000. Yeah, that was 2011. That was
and your picture was in. Maybe I was off by a year or so, but it, you know.
Yeah.
And another.
I didn't put the year that picture was taken. It just looked 9-10 years off.
Another interesting fact: Boston Strong Charles Rosa is 3-4 in the UFC. He's fought in the TD Garden in Boston 3 times, and those are his 3 wins. So he's undefeated in Boston, and he's without a win anywhere else.
Wow.
Another interesting stat.
Yeah, it is because those I believe that sometimes some fighters that affects them sometimes. You know, hometown or fighting where they're fighting.
Well, good guys in Boston too. I mean,
so it's not capable. What's going on? And you know what? That's where I don't want to get this into the topic for another day, but I work with a sports psychologist. You know, and I've done hypnotherapy and things like that with my injuries and stuff like that. And I think that, you know, that's something I think that every athlete should kind of like, if it's available to them, they should consider speaking to a sports psychologist or a sports psychology coach, because it's very interesting when you look at the statistics of a fighter and something like that to wonder if they even know that that's what's affecting them. And if they can get past that, that can completely change their game. So I think that's something, I like to get deep into like psychology of fighters, especially when it comes to things like that, patterns. Why are these patterns still happening? You know, it can't be just coincidence. Maybe there's something deeper. And it's only for the right of the athlete to kind of figure that out, because it could be a mental thing.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, I'm going to let you guys go. But I mean, I would love to do this again because this was awesome. And I love the feedback, because I feel like, okay, it's making sense to me the way that you guys explain it. And I hope that the viewers also are getting that too. But we have the upcoming fights are so May 15th at the Jacksonville Arena again. We got Anthony Smith and Glover Teixeira, and then the main event, and then May 16th, Alistair Overeem and Walt Harris. Which one of those 2 cards are you looking forward to the most?
I don't know the cards apart.
Well,
okay.
It feels like the 4 canceled fights have all just been like, what are the best fights from these 4 canceled shows? Let's dump them all onto a couple shows and just kind of compact everything together. I don't know the cards top to bottom, but
speaking from just some of our American Top Team guys, I know we have Thiago Moises fighting Michael Johnson tomorrow.
That's a good one.
Okay.
And then
is Christoph fighting tomorrow, or is he fighting
Christoph is fighting Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Eric Anders. He's fighting Eric Anders. There's another one of our guys. Oh, Philippe Lins is fighting Arlovsky tomorrow.
Okay.
Andre Arlovsky versus Philippe Lins. Both American Top Team guys fighting each other. That's on tomorrow night.
Wow.
Edson Barbosa is fighting Saturday. Dan Eag, I think. Is that his last name? Eag? Yeah, Dan Eag. Edson Barbosa is one of our guys. So, and obviously, Walt, you know, he's a dear friend to a lot of us. So, you know, rooting for him as well. I'm excited for both the cards. There's a lot of good fights on both of them. I'm looking forward to.
I'm just happy that it's back. The one thing I didn't touch on, I'll say this real quick about Jakari when testing positive for COVID. Mm-hmm. You know, that was very interesting. Yeah, when he, that's right. And when they were talking about, you know, the testing and everything like that, and what they're, you know, it just was interesting to me that they knew that he knew he was around people with it, you know, and I know they're taking all precautions. I mean, and we need it, but that was probably pretty interesting for him too, to it, knowing that you were around people, you know, and there's only so much you can kind of like step out. I know Jackie was there, and I was like, stay away from Charles, because he was in the picture, because the video that was around. What's wrong with these people? But I know there's only so much they can do. But like we talked a little bit about too, Trisha, with where the next fight's going to be. I know Dana talked a little bit about the Apex in Vegas, and I was sharing that with you in the gym the other day. That I think that they're trying to figure that out. But I think it's going to be in Florida for a bit. Until they can get Vegas in. But I think I think that it's just been safer here. And if they have a good system, and like Dana said in the post-fight the interview, he said we had to figure some things out and make it work, and now we got it nailed down. So then the first one was what it was. I don't think you're going to see anything like what happened, with whoever tested positive going forward. I think it's going to be a little bit more, because they can't risk it. But I'm so happy. I'm happy that it's combat sports. It's a good feel, especially for boxers who are like, all right, well, if the MMA is doing it, if UFC is doing it, if Titan's doing it, then we're next. We're right there. Yeah, and that's important. So and it's just interesting that I think we're going to get a lot more combat sport fans out of this too. Yeah. So thank you all so much for coming on. We'll have you again. I appreciate you guys and your knowledge and your experiences and sharing them with everybody. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, Dez.
Take care.